guys, Work here. Welcome back to the bench. In today's world, with the stuff that we're dealing with, it's going to be really difficult to be able to get out and to be able to shoot live rounds through your firearm. So what are we going to do? We got to keep our skills up. We got to keep improving. You got to always continue to push. Well, I've got something for you that might help out with that. Okay guys, so here's the deal. Today we're going to be going over this. This is a Legion, but we're not going over the Legion. We're going over this little guy right here. This is the X10 from Mantis. Mantis is a technology company. They produce a sensor, this one right here, that goes on the bottom of a firearm. And what that sensor does is it uses a bunch of different sensors, very similar sensors like the gyros and stuff that are in your cell phone, and G-load meters and stuff like that, to be able to see what the movement of your gun is during firing and a trigger press. What they do with all that information is then they calculate at what points you're doing different things. They can actually see, based on the movement of the firearm, how your trigger pull is actually affecting the overall location and pointing of your firearm. So why is this important? Why am I doing an entire video about this little guy right here that just tracks the movement of my firearm? Well, here's why. When you're talking about improvement, whether that improvement is based purely on like our own abilities, or if that improvement is based on our function and interaction with a device of some type, that improvement needs to be calculated. We need to be able to watch it. You see a lot of trainers talking about how everybody needs a shot timer, even defensive trainers and competition trainers, because you have to have a metric to be able to compare yourself, to be able to truly measure how you're doing performance-wise. Let's take cars, for instance. So in automobile motorsports, you've got multiple different kinds of racing, right? You've got circle track racing, road course racing, you've got drag racing. All of these different racing types draw on a multitude of different key metrics that they can look at to be able to optimize the performance of the driver and the machine. Well, firearms and firearm competitions and self-defense training is no different. There are things that we can look at to be able to compare those two. Going back to the car analogy, when you're looking at automotive sports, there's stuff that you can do as far as driving itself goes. When you're racing, you can talk about the tire material, you can talk about throttle control. Road courses, you talk about when to pull in and when to get out of a turn. With drag racing, you can talk about 60 feet times and how fast you can get that acceleration to go. And then in both of those aspects, we can talk about motor curves. Now with these motor curves, these are kind of the machine behind the tool, but we're still fine-tuning things to make everything function just right. And the way that I view this, the Mantis, is a little bit like a dyno in a car. So you've got your real-world performance where you go out and you do a lap or shoot a course and you get a time. What this allows you to do is fine-tune outside of that circumstance. So I can take this little device right here, and I can do all of my dry fire practice right here at the bench, and I can still get something out of it. So I'm not just putting in reps, trying to get more used to it, but I'm actually making modifications to see how those affect my overall performance. And thus, we can get useful information out of a dry fire session. So what I want to do is I want to go over this little thing a little bit, show you guys some of the stuff, and tell you exactly what I'm going to do with it and how we're going to use it here on the channel. First up, let's go ahead and start the app, okay? And with the app started, connection is very simple. We're going to push this button right here on the bottom. This is exactly what you do for the first time setup too. There's no additional setup for this thing. You push that button, light's going to come on, you're going to hit connect on the app, making sure that your location is on, and then you're ready to go. So here you can see that we've got a ton of different benchmarking and shooting options that we can go for. This is the basic marksmanship course up here at the top. I'm not going to worry about that today. I'm just going to show you guys a little bit about how we're going to run this. So for me particularly, we are running the X5 Legion, so I'm going to go to the settings and double check up here at the top that I've got the X5 Legion marked, and I do. I'm going to go back to train, and now we're just going to go to the open training. You can see that I need to calibrate it, so I got to put the gun down on a stable surface. It's going to calibrate. Calibration is all done. It's that simple. So now all we're going to do is we're going to hit the start button. And with that start button pressed, now we can just start dry firing. We're going to hold it just like we would hold it if we were doing live firing or standard dry firing. And you'll see, as I press the trigger, it's going to give us different scores. For each trigger press, it's going to do something different. And it's giving us feedback this entire time. Let's do one more. Okay, so now we've got our feedback. We can see all of our scores. I'm going to hit the stop button. That's going to exit it. My average score for this particular session was 93.8. I can scroll to the side and I can see each one of my individual shots. That first shot was a 99.8, which is damn amazing. I think that was a fluke. Scrolling to the right. So on this screen, we can see all of the different little features. And if I tap each one of those, it's going to tell me what I'm doing wrong and how I can actually change that and modify it. So go back, I can hit this one up here. I'm pushing with my right arm, and I know that I am. Tightening my fingers a little too much. And over here, I need to tighten my grip. Okay? So if I go to the right one more, this is going to show me how exactly my trigger press was going. If I continue to scroll, now this page is pretty cool. This is actually a chart of my overall movement once I start pressing the trigger. You can see all the different movement for each one of those shots. This is that first shot. You can see that it wasn't so much my movement, but it was the actual trigger press itself. And if I slide over one more, this is for notes and stuff. So you can see this thing can give us a lot of information. Let's go ahead and go back and let's start one more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to not press forward quite as much. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And let's go again, just with a couple. I'm relaxing my right arm a little bit. 4 and 5. Okay. Stop. Okay. And now you can see that my average score has gone up to a 95, up from that 93.5 or so what it was. You can see that my my overall chart has changed here. So now I am still pushing forward a little bit, but not quite as much, and my overall score has improved. So now what we can do with this little thing is, this is pretty cool, we can actually change which gun it's on. So I'm going to go ahead, pull the Mantis off of the Legion, and let's go ahead and put it on the SP01 here. Now the SP01 is a hammer-fired, double-action, single-action gun. So we're going to go to Settings, I'm going to hit my guns here, and I'm going to go to CZUSA SP01. Go back to Train. Now I'm going to go all the way back up to an open training session, and let's start an open training session here. Now, with this one, what I can do is I can actually fine-tune my double action trigger pull. So, I'm going to go ahead and press out, and I'm going to do exactly what I did with the other one, but with my double action trigger press now. Okay. Now you can see, I'm going to go ahead and stop it. You can see that I've got an 89.9 on my double action trigger pull. And the majority of my problem was that I was healing. So now I can go ahead and fix that, and we can run that again. But you can see that this thing is an insane tool to be able to use to do this with. This is information that I could not get in dry fire if I wasn't using this tool. Basically, dry fire up until this point, if you don't have this, is more of a speed thing. Can I hit this in the right amount of time? You can work on trigger pull a little bit using your sights as a verification on how your adjustments need to be, but it's very difficult to know if the changes that you're making are going to have a modification on your firing until you actually go to the firing range. With the X10, you don't have that problem. So we are just getting into using this. I've had it for a few days now, and this has increased my dry fire tenfold. I'm doing way more dry fire reps now than I was, and I feel like it's because I'm getting more out of them. I'm getting useful information. I know what I'm doing with it. I'm not just pulling the trigger. I'm not just doing what I think feels right. I'm able to actually make modifications and make changes and adjustments to finely tune what my finished result will be. Now, what we're going to use this thing for on the channel, besides just making myself a better shooter, we're going to be able to use this thing to compare different modifications. Whether one trigger is better than the other trigger, we're going to be able to take this to the range and do recoil management testing to see if spring rates change, if guns change recoil management. This thing is going to open up a lot of data for us here on the channel. You guys know me, you've seen some of my videos in the past. I like the data. I work in the engineering world, and I want to be able to have that raw material data to be able to look at, because feelsies aren't always right. So thanks guys for watching the intro for the Mantis X10. I'm looking forward to trying this thing out. If you've got an X10, go ahead and add me on there. My username is WorkTheTrigger, and we can compare what we've got. Odds are you'll be better than me, but that's alright. Remember guys, if you found this video useful, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. Keep an eye out if you're looking forward to any of the other stuff that we're going to do with this Mantis X. I'm going to be using this thing a lot, and it's going to make a lot of appearances in our videos. Thank you guys. Remember, I appreciate every one of you, and until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.